The shadow fold. A scar on the map that tore our country in two.
What the hell are you doing here?
I'll make it. Promise.
To destroy it, we need a miracle.
So who actually saw what happened?
We were attacked. And then there was a searing light.
Lift up your sleeve.
What are you?
Answer the question. What are you?
A map maker, sir.
Our map maker. Well, you and I are going to change the world.
This is the Shadow and Bone panel at IGN Fanfest, and you just watched the world-exclusive trailer debut. I'm Laura Prudhomme, and I'm joined for the first time ever by the cast and creators of Netflix's Shadow and Bone. Let's introduce them.
Hi, I'm Jessie Mei Li, and I play Alina Starkov, who is a cartographer in the army who finds herself in the middle of all the excitement when she realises that she has this mythical power to summon sunlight.
Hello, my name is Freddy Carter, and I play Kaz Brekker, who is a rising star of the Kestam criminal underworld with a thirst for vengeance.
Hi, my name is Amita. I play Inej, and Inej is she's an assassin with a conscience. She cares deeply for her friends and her crew, but her empathy is not mistaken for her ferocity. And she carries 14 knives, so beware.
Hi, I'm Kit, and I play Jesper in Shadow and Bone. Jesper is Kaz's, let's say, left-hand man. He's not quite the right-hand man, but he's a member of the Crows, and he is a sharpshooter, a gunslinger, and a gambler, and he can never walk away from a wager.
Hi, I'm Archie. I play Mal in Shadow and Bone. Mal is a gifted tracker in the First Army whose world spirals out of control as they are ambushed by Volcra in the Shadowfold.
Hi, I'm Ben Barnes, and I play General Kirigan, aka the Darkling, who is the commander of the magical military elite that are the Grisha, and he has the power to summon the darkness.
Hi, I'm Eric Heisserer. I'm the showrunner, writer, and executive producer for Shadow and Bone, the show based on Leigh Bardugo's amazing books.
Hi, I'm Leigh Bardugo. I'm the author of Shadow and Bone and all of the books in the Grishaverse, and also an executive producer on Shadow and Bone, the show.
Leigh, let's start with you. What was kind of the best part of seeing your world come to life on screen that way?
I mean, that part, just watching the trailer was pretty good. Pretty much done now. Look, there are so many scenes I could point to and moments I could point to. I think, honestly, seeing these actors inhabit these characters, the tiny moments that aren't even in the dialogue, you know, a look between Kit and Freddy, the expression on Jessie's face right before they're about to enter the fold, all of it was so unexpected. And, you can write these characters and try to control them. And that's, fantasy writers are control freaks. We really love to play God. But there's something extraordinary about seeing those characters take on a totally different life and interact in ways you never anticipated.
And Eric, for newcomers to Shadow and Bone, what's the most important takeaway here? What is, I guess, the Shadow Fold, and why is it such a terrifying thing?
Well, it's full of monsters, so that's pretty scary for starters. I would say that it's something that you haven't seen in other fantasy genre shows or movies. It's sort of a piece that is unique to Leigh's world, and hopefully that will get them curious enough to tune into the rest.
So Jessie, your character Alina is described as a map maker in the trailer, but it's obvious that she's got some hidden depths there. So can you talk a little bit about the power she's displaying and why it's such a big deal?
Yes, when we first meet Alina, she is just a cartographer in the army, and she then discovers that she has this mythical power to summon sunlight, which of course from the trailer we can see that the country of Ravka is split in two by this enormous expanse of darkness. So it then is Alina's responsibility to banish the fold with her newfound powers.
No pressure.
No pressure at all.
Little bit of pressure.
And Ben, Alina is obviously our focal character in the trailer, but it's your voice that's leading us through it. So can you talk a little bit about who General Kirigan is and how he plays into Alina's story? Because he obviously has some powers of his own.
Kirigan has been hoping to be able to banish the fold, to be able to bring peace to the country, which is a very war-torn country, as you'll see when you watch the show. But we find, all these characters in the midst of the tension of this war that's going on, and Kirigan is ambitious and powerful, and his power is to be able to manipulate the darkness. So it's the opposing power to Alina's. So when he discovers Alina, he knows that she's going to be very important to both him and this world that we find ourselves in.
Archie, your character Mal is Alina's closest friend. So why is he so concerned about her going into the Shadow Fold here, and how does he kind of tie into her story?
Well, as you can see from the trailer, it's not the nicest place to be. And obviously when she turns up on the boat, he's a little bit concerned for her well-being. And surprised because she wasn't meant to be there. And yeah, they're childhood friends. They grow up in an orphanage together. And Mal really in the series will just go to the ends of the earth to protect Alina and to look after her. So he's a very gifted tracker, like unusually good. I won't go into too much detail about that. Alina is kind of like Mal's home. That's the way I kind of see it. And to have that kind of taken away from him, we see in the trailer, and she goes off with General Kirigan, is a lot. And in the show we get to see that. We get to see Mal's journey and him trying to be reunited with her.
Now, Freddy and Kit and Amita, we only see brief glimpses of your characters in the trailer, but they're definitely very memorable moments. So what was your favorite part of what we just saw, and does it kind of bring back any memories of filming?
Lots of the show, we're all kind of in different pockets of the story. So to see lots of stuff that we weren't necessarily present for on the day, kind of fully realised is really exciting. And also, part of the reason that you don't see much of Freddy, Amita and I is if you haven't read the books, then you can just watch the show as is and enjoy it that way. But if you do know the books, then everything we do is a potential spoiler. So if you want to find out, you'll just have to watch. But it was great to kind of see those moments and kind of go, oh yeah, that's what happened that day, because it has been a while. And so it's great to kind of go back to the beginning and see where it's going to go.
Yeah, getting to finally see the Shadow Fold is very exciting, I'm sure, for all of us, because not a day would go by on set where we weren't going up to Eric and going, so just one more time, what does it look like? Because right now it's just a big green wall, and we're having to pretend to be terrified of going anywhere near it, or sort of screeching sounds coming from this big green wall. So yeah, to see that for the first time was very exciting.
In the trailer, you see Inej throw one knife in the trailer. And I remember that day I said knife probably 1,000 times to a very special someone. And I fell in love with that word, knife.
Best story ever.
Well, Leigh, your Grishaverse novels have become a worldwide phenomenon, and now they're being adapted for Netflix. But for folks who aren't familiar, what was kind of the genesis of the story when you first sat down to write it? And what did you want to explore through these books? Because the storytelling approaches of Shadow and Bone and Six of Crows are very different.
So the idea for Shadow and Bone really grew out of waking up in a house. I was staying with some friends in the mountains, and everybody else had gone into town, and I stayed behind to read my book because that's who I am. And I fell asleep while I was reading, and I woke up and the house was pitch black. And I mean, I live in Los Angeles, so I'm used to city dark. This was country dark where you can't see your hand in front of your face. And I, of course, thought somebody was in the house to murder me. You know, they just waited for me to wake up because that's what serial killers do. But after my heart rate had sort of calmed down and I had adjusted and found the light switches, I couldn't shake this idea, what if darkness was a place and the monsters we imagined there were real and you had to fight them on their own territory?
No, what if darkness was a place? It should be in the trailer. What if darkness was a place?
I used to write movie trailers, friends. That used to be my
so good.
Yeah.
I remember.
Love it. And Ben, you've obviously been part of some huge franchises and big hits. But what was the most enticing part of playing General Kirigan compared to the many iconic roles you've had in the past?
Well, I think I'm definitely drawn to characters with a duality to them. Somebody who might come across as not necessarily trustworthy, but then what is there about this character that balances that out? Where is his humanity? Where are his vulnerabilities? Where is, do we see a loneliness in this person? Can we see things that we can relate to in someone who is from the outset seemingly so powerful and driven? And I think the thing for me that was so appealing was this world felt like no world I'd seen before. It feels like a little bit, with the different colors of the kefters and the different orders that they're placed into. It feels a bit like Harry Potter houses, and then it also feels a bit Riverdale and Lord of the Rings, and then it feels a bit like this Russian Anna Karenina kind of fabric to it, and all the status games and tension that can fuel that. And I think it was appealing to me to play somebody who was at the very top of that hierarchy in terms of his immediate power and how people treat him and fear him potentially, and so that was kind of an interesting kind of new avenue for me.
And Freddy, as the leader of the Dregs, you're a rising star in the criminal underworld. So what can you kind of tease for long-time Six of Crows fans and people who may be new to the show about your part in the story?
Well, I'm sure if I say anything too much, then Netflix security will boot me out of this panel and I'll never be seen again. And so there's not too much I can say about our part in the story. But what's really exciting, I think, for fans of the books is that everything you'll be seeing for Six of Crows will be prequel to the book. So it's all new material. So these characters and this world that you already love, you're getting to see new things from it. And sort of we're just fleshing out this world that's already so rich and diverse. So that was really exciting for me as a fan of the books to see, Kaz, Jesper and Inej sort of before we even meet them in the books was really exciting. And then for new fans, there's just so much to get your teeth into with the Crows. I think Ketterdam is a little bit like Gotham and Chinatown and Amsterdam all sort of smashed together. And, if you like heists and danger and drama, then the Crows are probably for you.
Amita, your character Inej is also known as the Wraith, and she's kind of a spy with, as we alluded to earlier, impeccable knife skills. So can you talk a little bit about the preparation for the role and some of the maybe demanding scenes that you had to tackle without going into spoilers?
In terms of the knives, it was It was so empowering, first of all, to have that many on your body. I remember having a call with Wendy, our costume designer, and she said, "So, I've seen photos of you, and you seem really small. I don't know how we're going to fit 14 knives." And I was just like, 14? Oh, okay.
Well, Kit, I think fans have a particular affinity for Jesper, who's, sharpshooter and a gambler and fast hands and even quicker wit. He's, very scene stealing. So how did you approach playing this role, and what kind of preparation did you have to go through to handle Jesper's amazing revolvers?
Yeah, I mean, that was great. Because actually, in terms of this little group of people, I was a somewhat late addition. I think I had 2 weeks from finding out I got the job before I was actually on the plane out to Budapest to start shooting. So I didn't really know what was going on, and I hadn't read a script yet. I'd read the books, but I knew that the Crows were going to be doing some new stuff. But I remember kind of reading it and going, "Oh, okay, this is actually going to be really hard," because I didn't quite know how to prepare myself. But I remember on day one, we'd had our first table read of sorts, and the stunt team gave me a couple of these revolvers, kind of stunt ones made from rubber. And I dropped one immediately and it smashed everywhere. So no natural gunslinger here. And I was told that it was the only pair, so I felt really, really bad. But once I was given a pair to go home and practice with, I eventually kind of, got a grip of it. And then we were given the real ones for shooting, and they were considerably heavier. So it took some time, but hopefully what you see is competent and will please a lot of the fans.
You became astonishing at it.
It's
so
incredible.
Incredible.
And we all had to go at it.
We would all do a go.
They're so heavy.
Just dropping them.
Yeah.
We'd pick them up and be like, "Yeah, that looks. I could do that. I could do that."
That's easy.
In the face or in the... Hats off. Kit is fantastic.
Oh.
And he learned a brand new skill in a very short amount of time and made it look.
Yeah.
He made himself look like a pro.
Yeah,
Definitely.
And it's useful for everyday life as well. I won't tell you how, but it is.
So, Eric, fans of the books are going to be really curious how you brought these stories and characters together, since Six of Crows takes place after the events of Shadow and Bone. So what was the process of figuring out how it fit together and kind of fleshing out what the Six of Crows gang were up to during this earlier time period?
Well, Leigh had already done some of that work for us. The story in Six of Crows does flash back to times before that current storyline there. And we could see how, a few characters or a few moments then lined up with what was happening in Ravka in the Shadow and Bone book at the time. And the rest was really just trying to figure out what storyline could fit alongside the events of Shadow and Bone that would possibly provide some opportunities for them to bump against each other now and then.
So aside from aligning the timeline, were there any other big changes in how you translated the novels to the screen?
It's a smart question, and I think it's really about when you make a show and you're bringing more people involved into the process of realizing something that just had existed in literature first, then that translation can create some delightful surprises, and that can be from performance to costumes to set design, any of those pieces, and you end up with a creature that feels lived in and real and a little different, and never as you initially pictured it, perhaps, but that has a personality that ends up being all its own.
I've been lucky enough that Eric has included me in a lot of these conversations from the start, and I got to be in the writer's room and to try to be a resource, and also to speak up when I was concerned that we might be coming up with something cool that might blow up the road in front of us without us realizing it. But I think for me, one of the most exciting things about this has been the nature of collaboration and of seeing the way that something new can not fight
the existing soul and characters of the book, but just provide a new way of letting these characters interact. And I think that that's something special, because I think, the books will always have their life. But I think for people who've read the books, this is much more thrilling than a page by page, super literal adaptation. And you never know how people will react to something. But for me, at least, I feel like the story somehow managed to be deeply true to the books and also offer people a completely new adventure.
Well, I want to get to fan questions, because the Grishaverse fan base, as I'm sure you guys already noticed from being on social media, is so passionate. So we got literally hundreds, like almost 1,000 fan questions for you guys. So we're going to try and get through as many as we can. We're not going to get through 1,000, I can tell you that now. But we'll go through and we'll see how many we can get to in the time we have left. The first one is for Leigh from Gabby.
My name is Gabriela. I'm from Brazil, and I have a question for Leigh. Because Shadow and Bone is written in first person, we only see the events happening through Alina's eyes. I'd like to know how excited she was about seeing the story unfold in a broader perspective in the show. Thank you, guys.
These are the kinds of things that you have to know are happening, even if you're writing in first person. But it was wonderful to see sort of the parts of the book that really have only ever been explored in bonus material, and plenty of things that never were. And I mean, there's a reason I stopped writing books in the first person, because it's actually quite challenging to write battles and tell a story from one POV. But I also love the fact that because Jessie is so amazing, sometimes when you have that first person POV, there's so much emotionality, there's so much that's happening behind, the characters' visage that doesn't always communicate when it goes to screen. And because Jessie is Alina, like, we see her emotions, we see the struggle that she's going through, her fear, her excitement, her pride, her vulnerability. And I think that that's something really special that we found there. So good job, you.
This next one is from Sarah on Twitter.
Hello, my name is Sarah and I'm from Sweden. My question is for the whole cast, and I was wondering what your first impressions were when you read the book, if you read the books.
I remember thinking, how on earth are they going to pull this off? Like some of, the fold and the Volcra and just the sheer scale of the books. I just thought, that is even impossible. But then we got there, myself and Archie were the first people in the cast who got to Budapest. And I remember me and Archie were chatting away on the plane, chatting away on the way to production office. And then we walk in to one of the offices, and there was just all over these four walls was just all the concept art and locations and things. And I think we were both just like in silence, just walking around and just like every now and then sort of like,
yeah.
And then it was kind of like, okay, right, I see. This is going to be really cool.
I remember the first time we saw the Volcra or a mock-up Volcra, or like their first initial ideas of one in that room, and I was like, that's way better than what I had in my head, and that's why these people get paid to do that job, and I don't.
Well, I started reading the book, or sort of bought the books as I was auditioning, and then I read Six of Crows first, and I read the second chapter, which is from Inej's point of view, and fans of the books will know it is the single greatest character introduction ever. Kaz Brekker's character introduction is so good that I had to stop, because I knew that if I carried on reading, I'd get too attached, and I had to wait until I found out if I got the part or not. So I did, and then sort of, just gorged the other 7.
I bought Six of Crows after my self-tape for Shadow and Bone. And I came in, I got some food ready. I always like to eat something when I'm reading a book. And I opened the first page of Six of Crows, and time just stopped. When I finished it, I looked outside, it was completely dark. And I just sat there for, I don't even know how long. I just sat there soaking it all in. And I just could not believe what I had just read, and the journey I had been through in my head. And it was really strange because the book, just so good. It's like one of my favorite books ever.
For me, I've been involved in quite a lot of book to screen adaptations, and I've become a bit wary of it because you do fall in love with these books so hard, and then you get the scripts and there's just not time to do everything, and you can fall in love with a moment that won't exist. But with these, I read the trilogy first, and they did become, actually during filming, a bit of a Bible for me in terms of something to go back to. And having met Freddie and Kit and Amita, I could completely just picture them, and that sort of went for everyone who came in to play any character. Really, the faces were just the faces of these people, and actually, I'd known Archie before. We'd worked together before on a project before this, and so when I heard he was in the running to play Mal, having just read the book, I thought, this is just going to work.
It's really interesting though, like even when I'm listening to it or when I'm reading the book, I don't see myself as Inej in the thingy because I love the book so much, and honestly I'm like the #1 fan of Inej. I already had an idea I already had like creation of her in my head, which wasn't me because I hadn't got the part yet.
Yeah, Amita, you're missing out. You've got to read it again and picture yourself. I'd recommend.
Amita, I have to tell you, when I saw your tape, I actually started crying nobody's surprised, I cry at everything, but I started crying when I saw yourself because you looked exactly how I had pictured Inej. Like, it was like you had stepped out of Kevin Wada's art, and then I was very nervous because I'm like, what if she sucks? But then you were amazing. And I just started, I don't know, sometimes people walk in, you're like, they're perfect. And then they start talking and you're like, oh no. You were so incredible. And it was so overwhelming. So I'm amazed that you don't see her in your head. Like but maybe that's good. She's very murdery. So yeah.
And this next one is for Freddy from Emily Hind.
A big part of Kaz's character is that he can't have physical contact with anyone. I was wondering how you were able to incorporate this into the show, if you did.
I didn't go near anyone for months.
It was really, really hard to work with. It was really hard to work with.
I mean, I think Eric did an incredible job of building, we don't get a lot of access to Kaz's emotions and his backstory because he's so closed off, and because he is, as most of the characters from the Ketterdam side of the story they are in constant survival mode. But I think that Eric did this incredible job of building these subtle moments, and Freddy too. The truth is, I don't actually know where the line is between what was script and what was simply the character happening on screen. But these very subtle moments in the way that Kaz carries himself, the way that he relates physically to other characters, and also just even the way that he relates to the gloves he's wearing and the cane he carries, which is, for me, emotionally just an incredibly poignant thing as somebody who walks with a cane. Seeing Kaz, writing it was one thing. Writing it was this this kind of way of not quite understanding what I was doing and creating almost a superhero character who shared a disability. But actually seeing Freddy wield that cane and walk with that cane, for me, was incredibly powerful. I so frequently see the villain walking with the cane, or having a disability or something that makes him other. So instead, to see my anti-hero come to life in this way through Eric's words and through Freddy's performance was pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, I felt a big responsibility because of Leigh's emotional connection to the cane and sort of someone with a physical impairment. And I think, like Ben said, I went back to the book, and the book says, there's no part of him that isn't stronger for having been broken. And it never crossed my mind to make it something that stopped him doing anything. In fact, he he's more scary because he walks with this cane. There's more myth around him. There's more sort of danger because who knows what he could do with it at any given time. So I was really adamant to, on the one hand, make it believable and make it real for him, a real thing that he has to live with. But on the other hand, just something that he loves about himself and fully embraces. He's not ashamed of it in any way. You know, it's something that makes him stronger. So yeah, I worked hard on that.
I also have a fabulous video of Freddy trying to eat a banana with his leather gloves on. which I'm holding ransom at the appropriate moment.
Yeah.
Okay, this one is from Selena on Twitter, and it's for both Jessie and Amita.
We are so happy to see you guys represent so many young Desi and Chinese women and just being complete badasses in the show. I just want to know how do you guys feel about it, and did you have an artist that you looked up to when you were growing up that made you feel like you'll be able to do anything you want in life?
Yeah, I mean, I was so excited when I was up for the role because, you know, as a mixed race actor, specifically half Chinese, like there are very few roles where your ethnicity is actually, you know, actually mixed race. It's often a white character or a Chinese character, and you never quite fit in. And when I actually first went to the audition, I had no idea that this wasn't from the books. And it wasn't until I started to look at the fan art for Alina, I thought, oh, interesting. Okay. And yeah, so then I thought, oh, okay, so they've changed it. That's really interesting. I wonder why. And sometimes I think when you go to these castings, it's, you know, we worry, oh, okay, is it just for diversity? Is it just a decision that someone made on a whim? But you could just tell from the sides that they sent for the audition. Like Alina is talking to Jenya, and they're talking about her eyes, and they're talking about her Shu ancestry. So in this world, like Asian ancestry. And I just immediately just took like a sigh of relief, because I knew that, and obviously knowing Leigh and Eric and having looked them up and everything and started reading the books, I was like, okay, I feel like I'm in really safe hands, because this was something that was so important to me growing up. So it was just, I felt immediately safe. And I think it's so lovely that lots of the cast is very diverse, which is great, but it's not colorblind casting, which is brilliant for diversity. But everyone's race, it all plays into the world building, and it makes this world that the characters exist in so much richer, and so many different people can see themselves like portrayed on screen in a realistic way. You know, part of Alina's story is so embedded in her not knowing where she belongs, which is something certainly I've felt, lots of mixed race people have felt, where, okay, you're not this enough, you're not that enough. And I think this show has just been amazing for like representing all of these, you know, people who may not see themselves on screen. What about you, Amita?
To me, Inej is a new kind of strong female character. I think she's such a representation and such an inspiration, not only to myself, you know, before I even got the part, but just to anyone, you know, who didn't think that the industry was changing, because even though it has a really long way to go, it is changing. The opportunities are coming to everyone, and, you know, diversity, you're so right, it's not just ticking a box anymore. Like I said, it's still got a really long way to go. But Netflix certainly is making all the right steps. And, you know, Leigh, thank you, honestly, thank you so much. Yeah. That's what
it is really lovely, isn't it? Like you know, I really feel like lots of the female characters in this show as well are just realistic. You know, it's not even that they're strong, it's just that they are fully formed human beings with such like incredible backstories and wants and needs and things. And I think, you know, for young women watching the show, and young people generally, to see these characters portrayed so well, you know, it's just, I wish I had that growing up, and I wish that would have given me so much more confidence as a person, just to see someone like, oh, I can be strong, I can make my own decisions, I can just be a bad bitch, like that's okay. So it's really it's really refreshing, and watching the show, it's just like, yeah, dream come true for like 13-year-old Jessie Lee.
Absolutely. It's I don't know if many people know, but I was born in Nepal, in a really small village. We had, no connection to the outside world. I grew up with being chased by cows and eagles and, king cobra chilling on your washing line. And I saw TV for the first time. And I said to myself, that's where I want to be. And it was so interesting when I first came to the UK, I was told you can't be on that. There's not many opportunities for you, so you have to change your dream. And, for me, it's a miracle that I am even here speaking to you guys, that I'm in the industry. And, if I just hope that people really just, what's the word?
Inspiration?
See, it's, yeah, absolutely. But just kind of feel the change and make sure that, we're not going backwards and we're going forwards, and that, if someone like a girl from a village who can't read and write and didn't speak any English could come here, then you've got a bit of hope.
Not giving up on the dream is you are the change. You are the change. And you're wonderful in this.
That's right. So much love was poured into this show, and I hope when people tune in, we've had a lot to try to we need a little escape right now. And I hope this show takes you someplace new and beautiful and dangerous just for a little while. So yeah, I hope you guys love it the way that I hope you feel the love we all put into it.
Amazing. That is sadly all we have time for right now. So thank you so much to our panel and everyone watching at home for being part of IGN Fanfest. I cannot wait to see the Grishaverse come to life on screen. You can keep up with Shadow and Bone on their official Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram pages, and Shadow and Bone premieres globally on April 23rd, only on Netflix. Thanks, everyone.
Come on!